Hey everybody, it's Eric. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and I absolutely love that about Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. In other words, you can start making money as soon as possible. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, remember to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Well, welcome to the show, You, Me, Your Mom. A show where three people sit down to talk about whatever they want to talk about. I'm your host, Eric, and we're joined today by our other two hosts, my best friend, Brandon.
Hey.
And my mom.
Hello.
Her name is Sandy. How are you guys today?
Well, I'm good. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Feeling pretty refreshed.
Good. Well, we're doing pretty good down here, too. We thought we were going to have a storm. And the storm changed its mind.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that worked out pretty well for you guys.
It did. We're usually not that lucky. Yeah, we spent a few days prepping for this storm. For those that are listening and you haven't watched the news past couple of days, it looked like Florida was going to get hit by their very first hurricane of the season, which was wild because it's extremely early in the year to have a hurricane.
But it's 2020, so it seemed only fitting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, none of us were surprised. I mean, 2020 has been such a year where you hear that a hurricane's coming and you go, meh. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, fine. Yeah, let's do this. So a lot of us didn't really think about the hurricane too much this time. And we didn't really prep all that much. I think Friday night we went out and got some gas and for the generator. We just kind of like, and I think part of it too was it was supposed to be a Category 1. And if you've never been through a hurricane, Category 1 is scary, sure. But, when you survive strong, you survive Cat 4s and stuff like that, you're like, it's going to be a day. I hope the power doesn't go out so I can play my video games. That's literally kind of what it comes down to. So we weren't too worried about it. But
it's just an inconvenience for the most part.
It was an inconvenience for the most part, like prepping for it and stuff. And then it was supposed to hit us. And then about an hour ago, it was supposed to be here now, right when we were recording. About an hour ago, they said, it's not even going to hit us. So we might get some rain bands. And that is that. We finally caught a break in 2020, Florida. We, thank goodness, because if it was a bad hurricane and we still got a long ways to go in hurricane season, it would have been tough to deal with this and the pandemic all at the same time. So we live to fight another day. So yeah, that's kind of what happened down here. It's actually been sunny today.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I watch the hurricane news just because, my son happens to live down there. So I just keep track of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've been good. Yeah. So we have just been plugging away, and I know you guys have too, but we are actually going to talk about something rather interesting today. I hope you guys are ready. For those that are listening, several weeks ago, we did weird YouTube trends, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. And we had talked about my obsession with YouTube, and I know that Brandon and Mom watch YouTube on the occasion as well. I don't think they watch probably as much as I do. It's my main form of entertainment most of the time. And there's just some interesting trends and channels that have popped up over the years. And so several weeks back, we had done weird YouTube trends. And this week, we thought we'd break down some heartwarming trends and channels for you guys. And kind of something that kind of either inspires you, puts a little pep in your step as you watch YouTube, and things that you really should check out. So we thought we would do that. That sound good for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Yes.
Well, let's do it. Heartwarming trends and channels found on YouTube. Who wants to go first?
Why don't you go ahead and kick us off, Eric?
Okay, sure. There's one, and I feel like I have to justify it just to get set up. There is a channel, and there's a trend on YouTube. He's the latest of this trend, and I don't know what possessed me to start getting wrapped up in this trend. Listen to me, trend. And the reason I say trim is because I'm actually referring to hoof trimming on cows, bovine trimming. I have a weird fascination with watching videos on YouTube of people trimming cows' hooves. It started about a year ago, and for some reason, I'm just kind of into it. I think it's because I grew up with cows. I've always been slightly interested in cows, and it just popped up in my feed one day, and I was like, oh, okay, try this. And the first channel that I landed on is called Hoof GP, and he is a Scotsman. He lives in the south part of Scotland, and where he lives is beautiful country, all farmland, and its history, a time out of mind kind of place. And it's his YouTube channel kind of categorizes his adventure as a hoof trimmer throughout Southwest Scotland in particular. His name's Graham Parker, if I remember correctly. And what's so interesting about it is, yeah, you think, oh, all right, Eric, well, that's just kind of weird. But what keeps me coming back to his channel is he is one of the most positive, sincere people on YouTube. And that's what makes it so fascinating. He's in hoof trimming for all the right reasons. And what I mean by that is he has a deep love for cows, which, everybody's like, really? He loves them. And he's really, really concerned about their well-being and health all the time. And it breaks his heart when there's something wrong with their feet, because a lot of people don't know about cows is their success and survival depends on if they have good feet or not. Like if they have bad feet and they can't fix their feet, they have to put them down. And so it's a really and I do mean deathly important that their feet are in good condition at all times. And his channel just kind of just takes you through a day of life with Graham Parker. And it's his love for what he does and how serious that he takes what he does. And he's funny, he's chipper, he's authentic, he loves to tease around a little bit, but underneath all of that is it breaks his heart when one of these cows are lame. And he does everything he possibly can to make them feel better. And he constantly talks about making sure that the cow is as comfortable as possible and that the cow is as happy as possible. And it just kind of warms your heart that there's this random guy in Scotland trimming hooves, which is a dirty, dirty job, right? I mean, he's constantly covered in slurry and, he gets peed on all the time, which is true, by the way. He's
just being in a cow pasture in general.
He's got him in the crusher. Well, that's what they call it, the mechanism that lifts them up so he can, trim their feet. And he's got them on lockdown. And the cows get nervous and they just start peeing and pooping everywhere. And he's like leaning into the back of the hooves, right? And then it's just suddenly like a golden shower. All over his back. And he records the whole thing. Yeah, he just records the whole thing. And for someone who's quite literally covered in pee and poop all the time, the passion that he brings to his profession inspires me to bring passion to my job, to be very honest. And my job, it consists of just talking to educators. I'm always clean. I'm always, I'm walking into classrooms when there's not a pandemic. I mean, my job is so easy compared to his. And there are days that I want to complain about it. And then I remember, oh, there's Graham, who's literally covered in pee and poop. And he's just like, I love my job.
Well, it's like they always say, love what you do and you'll never notice a bodily waste product a day in your life.
Yep, that's exactly right.
That's true.
And it's not just him. You can find other people like Nate the Hoofman. He's another one that I watch on. But so it's not only just his sincerity and authenticity like Nate. He's also a really great guy. Happy Hoofs. I think that's another one. And it's not all these guys are really concerned about those cows and their health and well-being. But what's also makes it really interesting is there's so much science and health that goes into it. Like especially Graham, he takes the time as he's trimming hooves to tell you why this is and what you're looking at. So you talk about sole ulcers, and there's some really dramatic gross footage sometimes, like they're full of pus and he breaks it open and he has to trim that all down and it's really gross and stuff. And he's got sole fractures he talks about, and he records digital dermatitis, which is hairy wart. Yeah, I know all this stuff.
By the way, Sole Fractures by Harry Wart would be like a great jazz album.
I know, right? I didn't think about that. Harry Wart. Or a really kind of like grunge band, like coming out of Seattle. Either one or the other. Yeah, one or the other. So it's this bacteria that like causes a wart between their claws, and it's really painful to walk on, and it's a whole thing. So he talks about it, and he certainly shows it. Sometimes it's graphic for people that get disgusted easy, bear in mind. But he takes you through it, and he talks about what causes it and what's the best treatment for it. And he always wraps it up and says, this looks gross now, and this looks awful as I'm cutting it, but this really is has the best interest at heart for this particular cow, right?
Oh, sure.
And,
well, I mean,
yeah,
you can't just leave an infection in there. Like when you get an ingrown toenail on yourself, it's painful, but you got to cut it out and dig it out. And if there's, pus, and I'm sure people are just loving this part of the podcast
sure
right now, but got to get in there, clean it out.
Yeah, and I think it's just, so it's two things. You're learning interesting things, and he's constantly looking on how to get better at what he does, but it's just his personality that comes along with it. He's just someone that you would genuinely like to just kind of hang around, grab a coffee with, shoot the breeze with, go a day with him and just play around and, just be around him. He's one of those guys, I'm sure we've all met that guy who's just always somebody that everybody wants to be around, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And it's heartwarming because of his passion. And, and then what's really cool about it, last thing I'll say about the Hoof GP is that after a month or so, he'll show you like a cow that has a really lame foot. And then about a month or 6 weeks, he comes back and revisits and he shows you the results of what he's done and how that's helped the cow. So you kind of get to see the whole progression of the cow, starting from the lame, and then like 6 weeks later when he comes back to trim the hooves on that particular farm, then you get to see the results of his trim and how he helped that cow. And there's the famous 5112 cow that she was lame and could not get that cow's hoof fixed, and it went on for a few months until he finally was able to resolve the problems that cow 512 has. And it so inspired the local area that there was a local children's author wrote a book about cow 512 based on his videos.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just really sweet stuff. He's just the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
And so
something that we never think about.
Yeah.
At least 97% of America, if not most people in the world, it's like never think about that.
No.
Yeah.
Like I guess a cow needs a pedicure too.
Exactly.
I guess it does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's something to say about a Scottish accent. Let's just be honest here. I can listen to that man talk all day. He can say the stupidest stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Graham, sure, I'll listen." Something about that accent. He's just got a soft Scottish accent, and everything about him is a lovely. He shows his family on occasion. They seem he's got a couple kids. His wife seems very nice, and just everything about Graham Parker. It's a bit of a man crush, and I don't even know this guy in person. So, if you guys want to check that out, learn more about the science behind hoof trimming and all that sort of stuff, and you want to hear a lovely guy running around and showing you how to do it very patiently, check out Hoof GP. So that's my first pick. So there you go.
Cool.
What do you guys got?
Well, Brandon, do you want to? Okay. Well, my first one that I've got it's a channel, and it's called Special Books by Special Kids. I don't know if you all are familiar with this, but it was originally set up by a disability rights advocate, Chris Ulmer. And what happened was he was a special education teacher, and he tried to get some publishers interested in a book where he would interview his students there, and he couldn't find any that were interested. So what he did was he just started this YouTube channel to let these kids who have disabilities tell their stories that way through this YouTube channel. So in this channel, there's a lot of these episodes or stories, and this has been going on, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. And Chris and his wife, Alyssa, they've interviewed like all of these adults and these children, and it shows their different lives. And they'll have like some common conditions like autism, to some really incredibly rare ones. One that I remember was Strom syndrome, which was really cool. Not the syndrome, but the story, of course. But this is a way that they're using to help inform the public that people with disability are still worthy of love, of friendship, full lives like everyone else.
I would agree.
I know, it was really great. It's a very positive, inspiring and touching thing that they're doing. And Chris has this really cool way of connecting with everyone that comes on his show, it's like, well, it's a gift. I mean, it's just simply amazing at how he's able to connect with everyone. So if you haven't seen that, it's Special Books by Special Kids. And there's one more that's actually in that same kind of theme, and it's called Squirmy and Grubs. Have you guys heard of this one?
No.
No.
It's a great name, though.
I know, isn't it great? But it is, it's a couple, another couple named, and it's Shane and Hannah, and they are an interabled couple. So what this means is Shane has spinal muscular atrophy. It's a type of muscular dystrophy, and it means that all of his muscles are incredibly weak. And Hannah is able-bodied. She's Shane's caregiver. She's also his fiance. But in addition to her taking care of Shane, they're really like any other couple. And that's what they're trying to get people to see in these videos. Basically, they're trying to overcome the stigmas and misunderstandings of disability. And, you know, a lot of people just don't have much experience with it. So they do things a little bit differently. Like Hannah will like feed him his beer or things like that. But you can still see their love and excitement, and they actually have like this really cool life, and their enjoyment around that, it's infectious and contagious. And it's always, whenever I watch it, it's always a surprise. You know, it may be that they may be traveling to a foreign country. There was one where Hannah chose her wedding dress. There was actually one that was a Q&A one about interabled intimacy, by the way. You know, wow. And yeah,
that's cool.
and
that's an interesting topic.
It's really cool. Yeah. And sometimes they get like trolls like any other YouTube one, but there was a recent one that they did, and they did a skit where Hannah pretended to try and murder Shane in his sleep after they hit 500,000 subscribers. When they get the trolls, they tend to just take those hate comments and they just turn them around really funny. They just have a way about it. And so it's just really, really positive and heartwarming and just fun to watch, really. But it's called Squirmy and Grubs.
Squirmy and Grubs.
Squirmy and Grubs. I know, it's a great name, and it's a great couple. And to me, I just love to watch it because they're just so much fun, honestly. And when I finish watching one, I go, yeah, now I feel good about life. And the fact that Shane is disabled, really, by the time you watch one of these, it's kind of like, oh, I forgot that he was, kind of, you know, because their enjoyment of life together is just really cool. So both of those channels are, you know, Special Books with Special Kids and Squirmy and Grubs are to me, they're just really good, heartwarming YouTube channels that if you have a few minutes, go on, and you want to feel good, go on to either of those and listen to these people and watch them. It's good. Yeah.
There's something to be said for it. And I'm just speaking, I don't know what it's like to live, you know, with that lifestyle. And I'm not going to try to assume that I would understand what that's like. But when people are like that, are so vulnerable and they let the outside in, you know, it takes so much bravery to do that. Being on YouTube is brave to begin with, even you know, the best circumstances, because you are making yourself vulnerable and putting yourself out in front of potentially millions of people that you don't know. But to do that in such a vulnerable way like that takes a lot of courage. And there's different courage, you know, types of courage out there. I would definitely argue one is definitely for sure. And the idea that they have this deliberate perspective on their circumstances. That they want to make sure we know, the rest of us, that they have the same hopes and dreams that we have. I think that's amazing. That's so good.
It really is. And when you do that, like you said, the courage. So comments on YouTube they're not always positive. Yeah. And I know that Special Books with Special Kids have had some issues. And so they actually cut the comments off because they wanted to keep it a safe and positive community for these kids and adults. But Squibs and Grubs, sorry. they actually just make fun of the trolls. And they're actually pretty funny, but it's just the two of them. Where Special Books with Special Kids, Chris really wanted to keep a safe community for those that came on to interview. So they've handled that in a couple different ways, but you're right, such courage that these people show. It really is amazing. And Shane and Hannah, if you all have not seen that, Squirmy and Grubs, it just makes me smile every time.
Yeah, they sound like a really lovely couple.
Yeah, they do.
They really are. They really are. And I feel like I know them. It's really weird, but
Sure.
I feel like, hey, I know them. They're my friends. Yeah, they're my really cool friends that have these great adventures and enjoy life together. So
that's what's interesting about YouTube. When you find a vlog or a vlogger that you like, and over time, you feel like you get to know these people and they're a part of your life, like, Graham of GP, and then these people. And then there's another one that I recommend. I didn't necessarily put him, this is a quick shout out to him because I love him. I didn't necessarily put him as Heartwarming in YouTube because he's not, but he's still got a great channel. His name's Chris Broad. His channel is called Abroad in Japan. He's a Brit who moved to Japan several years ago, and he vlogs about his experiences in Japan. He went over there originally on the JET program to teach English. He's he describes himself as grumpy British guy. But it's funny. I found him very early in his career on YouTube, where he was just making videos and stuff. And the reason I bring him up is because over time, I feel like I know Chris Broad, which I don't. Let's be clear about that. But it's funny, if you follow vloggers over time, you feel like you really get to know who they are and what their response would be about a particular situation. And it's kind of like you grow to care about these people. And I think that's really interesting. And it's such lovely. I thought that they have put themselves out there for us to basically fall in love with them as a couple. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I absolutely believe that. Honestly, Shane and Hannah are my best friends. Because they are. Yes, yes.
It's lovely. All the best to them. That's for sure. So, Brandon, you ready? You're thinking hard.
Yeah, man.
Here.
Yeah, no. So, background, about 3 months ago, my wife and I decided to get a rabbit. So we went and got a black New Zealand rabbit named Carlos. And but we had
Can I pause you a second?
Yeah, sure.
We not asked, why did you name your rabbit Carlos? You showed proud pictures, like you were proud papa of this rabbit to me, right? You sent it to me in private chat. It's like, I've got a rabbit named Carlos.
Well, it's more like, hey, check out this rabbit that Missy wanted to get, but I got to name him Carlos.
Why Carlos?
So it actually was just a perfect manner of timing. One of the podcasts that we listened to they were discussing a cat adoption charity there in their city, and one of the hosts just cracked up and said they'd been just referencing the song "Smooth" by Carlos Santana and Rob Thomas, and she's like, "I am going to adopt 2 cats, and I'm going to say this is Smooth, and I'm going to name one Carlos Santana and the other one Rob Thomas." And I was like, "Well, I appreciate the music of Carlos Santana, but if we're perfectly honest, like Smooth is probably the song that I know him best on."
Yeah.
But I just thought that was kind of just a fun name for a pet.
It is.
And then then she started talking about that. I was like, "Can we get 2 and name one Rob Thomas and the other one Carlos Santana?" And she was not amused, and she said, "We can name him Carlos."
You're like, that's a compromise I can live with.
So anyway, ever since then, it's just been a constant, hey, look at this cute tunnel we can get for Carlos. And, oh, check out this awesome, clubhouse thing I found for Carlos at the thrift store where I work at. Every week I come home and there's some new toy or enclosure or something for this rabbit. The thing has more toys than some kids that I know, and I'm okay with that. Keeps him from chewing on our stuff for the most part.
That's a win.
So my wife just started watching and never really stopped, because we owned a rabbit a few years ago when we lived in Florida, but rehomed him when we moved up here to Michigan. But she just started watching all these rabbit videos, and it just started with pictures and videos from these rabbit adoption agencies, nearby here in Michigan, and then just other things. And then my phone must have overheard her, because one day I opened YouTube and the first thing is cute fuzzy rabbit obstacle course.
Oh no! That's how.
And I say, well, I'm not a monster. I have to watch this. and went down a literal rabbit hole for the next 3 hours of the most adorable little living balls of floof on leashes being run around obstacle courses and clearing hurdles and jumping fences and going up and down stairs. So one of the most prolific channels I found specifically for this is Rabbit Hopping. All one word, all lowercase. It is the Canadian Rabbit Hopping Club YouTube channel.
Oh my gosh, Canadians and rabbits? How
I know,
not resist?
like you can't, exactly, everybody wins. It was a more active channel a few years ago. Looks like the last few posts were about 2 years ago, and then the ones 4 years before that. But there are just video after video of, you know, floppy-eared rabbits and sticky-up ear rabbits, and just like big and small. And it's mesmerizing because there's, you know, kind of these homemade hurdle stands with 4 or 6 PVC pipes going across with, you know, markers on them, and the rabbits jump over and clear them, and sometimes they knock them off. And it's the same thing over and over for minutes and hours on end, but you can't look away because they're adorable. And it's like, look at what he did, and oh no, but he didn't get all of them, but look, he's such a cute little good boy.
It's amazing, man.
Okay, I did not know that this existed.
Yeah, neither did I till my phone overheard my wife. So I know she's listening to this right now in the future. So thank you, Missy.
There you go. Too funny.
But yeah, so check out, but just type in Rabbit Obstacle Course into YouTube and you will get a litany of videos. Like Vice did a mini documentary on them at one point, because they did a mini documentary on everything at some point.
Yeah, they do. They're pretty good about it.
They are. But yeah, just all kinds of, there's another great channel called Bunny Training, which is, you know, just exactly what it sounds like. Just this woman trains a rabbit to do tricks. And one of them is like picking up this like small little barbell, you know, with like, you know, 2 little fake balls on the end with like 75 written on them with its, you know, mouth or hands. And another one is, it's usually just, you know, hopping over things or going up and down things, but it's absolutely mesmerizing. And
none of this is not set to the song Eye of the Tiger. I'll be slightly disappointed. I must admit.
I haven't found one yet, but I'm sure one exists.
On that bad boy in a heartbeat. Yes.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
That's too funny. That's amazing.
So Rabbit Obstacle Courses. Check them out, folks.
Gotcha. Well, I know I will for sure. You know, it's funny. I told my wife what we were recording about. Again, she never listens, but she's always curious about what we're recording about. She's like, well, what's Brandon going to say? I was like, I don't know. That's part of the fun. And I kept trying to figure out what he was going to bring to the table. And I was like, Brandon, I don't know. I never know. And all the possible responses that I thought that you would bring to the table, it was not Bunny Obstacle Course. So thank you, sir. You once again met my expectations and exceeded them.
Hey, please.
That's amazing. There's so many ways you could have gone with it, but you went with bunny hopping, and I love you more for it.
You gotta love that.
It wouldn't be me if I didn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
That's amazing. Bunny hopping. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm actually putting it down because that sounds like a lot of fun.
Sure.
So, well, my next pick for me is actually a channel that I watch religiously called Wheezy Waiter. You guys ever heard of Wheezy Waiter?
No.
But I'm very intrigued.
Wheezy Waiter is this fella and his wife, and they've been on YouTube for years now. And what makes them so interesting is Wheezy is very curious about life. And every one of his videos has an overall theme, and it's always a question. And I'll give you some of the questions that he asked on some of his videos. For instance, and then not only does he ask questions, but then he also does challenges for him and his wife. And here's a few examples of some of the things that he does. I meditated every day for a month. Here's what happened. I went vegan for a month. Here's what happened. We quit sugar for a month. So that's some of the challenges. We got up early for a month. Things like that. Other things is, why do people like exercising? Okay. Why do people like popping pimples is one of his. Why do people like being parents? And all of his videos are surrounded by one central theme or one central challenge. And it's his curiosity and his wife's curiosity in exploring why these things exist and why are people attracted to these different things. Why are video games addictive at times for some people? And he explores this. Now, what's so great about Wheezy is that he's extremely funny. He is one of the funnier vloggers I've ever come across. He has a way with his editing, and he has a way with his punchlines that are amazing, quick-witted. And what's so lovely about it is not only he's witty, but when his wife shows up and she's in his videos, she's super witty. And it's this really adorable couple asking really interesting questions and researching. And he takes it further. He does researching. So like, for instance, he says, why do people like exercising? And so what he does is it's a twofold approach. He starts exercising more for himself, but at the same time, he's researching why other people are into exercising. And so he pulls in other famous YouTubers and he gets them on like video conference, and he asks them really interesting questions on what kind of fulfillment they feel on this, and people that are known for fitness and everything. And it's not just that. He talks about other ones, and he'll pull in and he'll do quick interviews. And he basically writes a really funny mini documentary on every one of these topics. And the thing is, he's not afraid to be very vulnerable too. One video he did is he sat down with his wife and they discussed why they think that their relationship is as strong as it is. Another one is he's like, I asked my wife what annoys her about me, and it was a very funny episode. Why do you love me is another one I think he did, was basically, why do we love each other? They recently had a child last year, and their kid is just ridiculously adorable. They were talking about what makes good parents. Why do they want to be parents? And they do it in this really funny, imaginative way that makes you just want to be around them at all the time, because they're just really sweet and loving, but they're sort of sarcastic. They're just that friends. It's that couple of friends that you want to have in your life. And it's always heartwarming, because at the end of the video, you always feel slightly inspired. You certainly are smiling by the end because he is so funny, but you always feel slightly inspired, and it always encourages you specifically to look at life in a unique, interesting way, to look at life and to start asking more questions, even of the most mundane things, because he manages to take things that most people find kind of boring or they don't ask questions about, and he dives in it and he really pulls it apart, and you realize there's science behind it, there's psychology behind it, there's things to consider that you've not considered. And when he takes on these challenges like, I've quit sugar completely, or I've quit for a month, or I've quit coffee for a month, he documents the whole process. Like, him suffering without coffee for a month. Yes, he loses the will to live. And he shows that right on. And he always does a funny job, but he shows the fact that he's struggling with it. One challenge he did was he was going to do his 10,000 steps every day without fail for a month, right? And it's his challenges, his ups, his downs. He's not always successful. Sometimes he fails and falls. But that's all part of the interest part of it. The interesting part of it is the process, how Weezer takes this information that he's learning, adapts it to his life, and what are the results of it. And you get to experience that all with him and with his wife, because she is very involved in his videos as well. And it's just people you want to be around all the time. And I don't think that Weezer Wader gets the attention that he deserves on YouTube. He's got a modest community. I think there are a few 100,000 on his community. But if it was up to me, Weezer would have 1 million subscribers. He produces great content, and he's a lovely person, and his wife's a lovely person. And they're just living life and putting it in such a way where it breaks it down and makes things where we feel inspired and slightly more curious about living life. And I think that's what is so great about Weezer Wader. And I strongly recommend anybody who wants to laugh, wants to feel a little bit inspired, and wants to ask questions that make them more curious, check out Weezer Wader. So that's my definite recommendation for sure.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. That sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm always doing challenges myself, so it would be fun to watch someone else go through it. So yeah,
he's
love
excellent. Excellent. He is so underrated on YouTube. He's excellent.
Very cool.
That's what I got. Well, back to you guys. What do you got, Mom?
Well, actually, what I like to do on YouTube is I like to watch these videos. They're called doing this Hindu art form called Rangoli. You may have seen them even on social media, some of it, but there's literally hundreds of Rangoli YouTube channels out there. I just type in Rangoli and go to them. But Rangoli, it's they create patterns basically on the floor, and they use colored sand or rice or even flower petals for some of them. And they usually do that. I think it originated during Hindi festivals, but it's now become something that people do worldwide, and it's just really kind of cool. A lot of the designs are passed from one generation to the next. Some are just very simple designs. Some of them are very ornate, and the whole purpose behind it, it's for the person doing it is to feel some strength, generosity. It's also thought to bring good luck, but it's certainly a mindfulness type of activity. It's kind of like coloring mandalas, things like that. They will look somewhat similar to a mandala. And it's usually done by women or by girls. Not always, but usually it's a feminine type of activity. And it's all about that strength within the female community, which is really kind of cool how that's kind of passed through. They will do it even when people get married, things like that. And you may have even seen some of it done with henna on people for temporary tattoos. They again, the base flower is something dry and colored, and they'll use different forms, may even use different things to make different patterns. So like I even watched one the other day, they literally took bottle caps and made this beautiful rangoli just by pouring around these bottle caps. It was really kind of interesting. I was like, okay.
I looked it up, like when just because I'm not familiar with it at all, but it's very soothing, and you can see how it's very like intentional, and you have to be very present in it, and it's very just kind of precise, but on such a large scale, it's kind of mesmerizing.
It is very. I mean, I will end up going, well, I'll just watch one or two, and I'll end up watching it. I'm
yeah,
like, oh my gosh,
I'm really trying to pay attention to you, but it's just so beautiful.
I know, it just really is. And I think it also kind of even though it comes from the Indian subcontinent, to me it has similarities to like Hopi sand painting, because these are amazing creations that people do, and they're temporary because they do them on the floor or they do them outside, and then they're gone, once they create them. The thing about rangoli, the more colorful, the better, the more ornate. They tend to just sometimes be these huge creations. Yeah. And then they're temporary, which, kind of life is too. Another interesting part about the rangoli is the symmetry. One of the things, if you watch them, there's a lot of symmetry within it, and a lot of intricacy with this dried rice or sand or flour, that they're using, or flower petals. Right. And it's like, how do they create this with that? And again, it's temporary, which has this other kind of just thought behind it when you think about all this intricate work that the artist uses to create this, and then it's just you sweep it away. Yeah. It's kind of cool. It is a form of abstract art, but typically it's inspired by nature, usually, not always, usually. And so it's just kind of a really, like you said, Brandon, it is very mesmerizing. And once you start it, it's hard to stop. It's one of those, but when I do finish, I notice I go, if I can be very much in my left brain and really focused and driven, and then after watching this for a little bit, I'll notice that I've done some of that ultradian cycling over to my right brain, where I feel much more relaxed and all of that, and I can actually feel that cycling through that ultradian cycle from one half of my brain to the other while watching it. So it is a very relaxing kind of, if you just want something really cool and mesmerizing and relaxing, Rangoli. It's just, you can find it all over YouTube. Like I said, there's literally hundreds of Rangoli channels that you can watch. So that's something I watch. And I'm noticing, of course, it's probably because they're all related, but I see a lot of these videos pop up on my social media at this point,
right.
because I watch so much of it on YouTube.
Yeah,
but it is
always watching.
Facebook is always watching. So it's not just Facebook, but my IG as well. I'm noticing I'm getting more and more of this Rangoli kind of suggested for you kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, if you suggest any more, I literally will be part of the machine, and I will just sit there and watch Rangoli all day.
Just a cog.
Oh yeah, just a cog, I guess.
A little creepy, but
yeah, a little creepy. But
I watched one of those videos one time, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm so sorry that I don't remember what it's called and you can't find it. But she created moments of someone's life throughout their life, and it would sweep away. And like it was, person was born, and it was their mother and mother holding them, and it was swept away. And then the next one was when this person was a child, and it was a scene playing outside, and
beautiful,
swept away.
Yeah.
And it went through the whole life, and you're just like, like, am I gonna cry watching this? I don't know. And they set it to music, which of course, just the ultimate emotional factor. And I say it like that. I'm not trying to be critical or trying to be anything like that. It was a really interesting, beautiful art. And it was like this presentation that she did where it was like it was moving you throughout this and making you reflect on the different stages of our lives and the sense of mortality all the way through it. Right. And it was really good. And I wish I knew what it was called and I could find it again. I watched it once and I never could find it again. But yeah, it was really amazing.
It is. I think that to me, it wraps up what mindfulness is. We're really not promised the next minute. It's right now in this moment, being mindful of being in this moment, because really, like the old song by Kansas, we're just dust in the wind.
Yeah.
Or like the writer of Lamentations, where you're just just a breath, and then it's gone. And I think that Rangoli, along with several other art forms, is a good reminder of that. So I haven't seen the one, Eric. Now I'm going to have to search for that particular one, because the ones I've seen have all been geometric.
Yeah.
Mostly designs.
And forgive me if my ignorance, but it was like pouring sand. Am I?
It is pouring sand, and yeah. There's.
I just want to make sure I got it correct. I didn't want to be disrespectful.
It is pouring sand. Yeah, pouring sand or rice, dry flour, and it's all colored. They use different things to pour from. I mean, they literally will just use little plastic squirt bottles sometimes. But yeah, I'll have to research the one that you talked about, because it does sound
forgive me
really
for those that are listening.
fascinating.
I don't remember what it's called or where you can find it, and this was a few years ago, so my memory is really rusty. I just remember the experience, if that will. I don't remember the artist. Excuse me. I don't remember exactly what in context it was. I just remember the images, so it definitely stuck with me for sure. Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to have to research to see if I can find that, because it sounds really fascinating. Oh.
That's a lovely one, Mom. Thanks. Brandy, you got another one, bud?
Yeah. So a few months ago, when we talked about other YouTube channels that we enjoy, I'd mentioned the Try channel, TRY, not to be confused with the Try Guys, formerly from BuzzFeed. But, a bunch of their videos are like, Irish people try edible bugs from South America, or Irish people try jerky from the Pacific Northwest, or Irish people try Australian beers, whatever their fans send in, they'll try it, 6 of them, 3 sets of 2 at a time, and they'll do a video of it. And so after I was watching, Irish people play drink roulette for the 5th time, because I've gone through one of their channels, the algorithm started slipping in similar videos from other things. And the one that caught my attention was kids try prison foods from around the world. And that's what got me turned on to the Hi-Ho Kids channel. Now, I felt like I had to give that background, because I don't want to just come in here and say, I like watching videos of children. Doesn't sound great.
No.
So now, like I said, this channel, a lot of the videos are like, kids try snacks from Spain, or like the one I mentioned, the kids try prison foods from around the world. This channel is great because it just reminds us that kids don't really have tact or a filter. They're very, honest about what they like and don't like. And so, the prison food video just begins with this kid with a tray in front of him. He tries something. They said, well, what do you think? And he turns to the side and grabs his stomach and goes, the universal vomiting symbol that we've all known, without ever knowing. Just as soon as we showed up to the first day of kindergarten, we just knew it somehow. And he just goes, is this what they eat all the time, or do they have like Taco Tuesday? Like I've watched dozens of these videos from that by now, and I just still remember that first line from the first time I heard it, and it cracks me up. So it has that. But then what's kind of neat is that it's not just kids trying food, but then it's also they kids tell us their scariest nightmare, or we have a hidden talent show with our kids, or the kids try the first date meals from their parents' first date. It kind of expands, and it started off as we just do these videos because these kids are funny, and kids say the darndest things, but now it's on YouTube and it's called something different. And they said, well, these kids are actually they've become pretty talented and they've got personalities, so they started kind of letting them shine a little more. And then in the last, the last 2 years, they've started, introducing them to different, people that they normally wouldn't. Like one of the really kind of powerful ones was kids meet a young adult who's in hospice. So they talk to a teenager who doesn't have much time left. And, they're not trying to, make this world look horrible and bleak for these kids, but, they don't pull a lot of punches, and another one was, kids meet a drag queen. And, at first, it's just, these two girls sitting and they know something's, they know they're not getting the full story of, who this person is. And about halfway through, they're like, wait, are you? And you can tell she doesn't want to ask it. Doesn't want to ask the question. And he goes, a man? Yes. And so they just get, and he explains what drag is, and it's kind of a performance, and it's playing a character. And a drag queen is not something most 8-year-olds would meet, not somebody most 8-year-olds would meet. Another one, kids meet a dating coach, or kids describe love to an illustrator. It's just kind of neat. Some of those are fun because it's kids describe love to an illustrator, and then kids try to explain music to a deaf person are two of my favorite ones, because it's kind of neat watching these kids try to describe these abstract concepts, and just it's like it's and they're just trying to describe it, and their gestures are getting bigger, and they're kind of getting frustrated, but they're still excited. And it's just this kind of like pure moment of just personality. And we've all been there trying to come up with words for something that there are no words for, because it's just a feeling or a movement or a physical presence or pressure. And it's just kind of neat. And one of the last ones that I want to mention is that they have, like I said, they started, introducing kids to different people, but a young teenage lesbian meets a former member of the Westboro Baptist Church. Oh. And so it was this young, 14-year-old girl speaking with Megan Phelps Roper. Now, for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with the Westboro Baptist Church, if you don't know them by name, you probably know them by reputation. Yeah. They're the group that goes to military funerals and protests them. They go out with, God hates FAGs. I don't like using that F word. Oddly enough, I don't mind saying FECK. I just don't for, the discomfort of friends and family, but it's the other F word that I really have a problem with. But they're the ones that go out with, God hates these people, and, they just shout down that America's going to hell and we all deserve it because we're so horrible and we've let these things go on. So Megan Phelps Roper is the granddaughter of the founder of this church. Pretty much everyone who is part of this church is related, about like 95% of them. And their last name is, or at one point was, Phelps. So she's like since left, that hateful movement, just, disguising itself as a church, and has gone out and said, she's kind of completely gone the other way now. She's kind of atheistic and humanistic, but still trying to do good work and social work and things to kind of make up for all the years of hate and, just not greatness that she did. So it was, that interview was especially powerful because it was, well, I've seen, I know that people of this church that you used to go to, carried these signs, that say that, I'm going to hell and I'm a horrible person, or I'm not even a person. And, Megan Phelps Roper is one of the most composed and articulate people I've ever seen. She's very smart. The people from the Westboro Baptist Church, most of them are lawyers, because they know how to keep themselves out of actual legal trouble. They know how to walk that line. And it's just a really great interview to watch her say, this is why, I said and did those things, and I'm a very different person now. I can't, make up and, sorry doesn't fix everything. She's like, but I'm trying to, move on from that. And it was just really powerful. And it's the Hi-Ho Kids channel. You can have everything from watching 6-year-olds eating astronaut ice cream to having serious social discussions about what's going on in the world around us.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I had never heard of that channel, so I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, it's one of those that like I'd kind of seen before, but it's like I don't have kids, like I don't babysit kids, I don't have a need to watch this channel necessarily, but that hook about the kids try prison foods from around the world kind of got me, and then actually looking into the channel realized how much more it was.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I would definitely check out the
so listeners with kids out there, I mean, like I said, they've got videos for kids of all ages. Your kids will love them. You'll probably get a kick out of some of them. Just check it out.
Well, that's awesome, bud. I really like that. That's cool. I'll put it on the list. Yeah, it's really cool. So, I'm looking at the time. I actually had more. I had a few more. Do we want to talk about this at a later time? I've got actually 2 or 3 more. Is that something of interest to you guys?
I mean, there's always things on YouTube I can find to talk about.
It's going to be next week, but
sure.
For those who are
this can be one of our topics we kind of come back to every now and then.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have to be a one and done about things.
I agree. And with something like this, where we're always looking for content that inspires us and warms our heart, I think we need to put even more emphasis on that than, funny things that we find, which of course I always do funny stuff. But sure. Yeah, that's something that I think that's not being covered enough is heartwarming channels and trends on YouTube. There's a lot of good things on YouTube. It's just like anything else. You can find some bad stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff there too. So for sure. Well, this has been fun. Thank you guys for joining us and bringing you guys' suggestions. And thank you for those that are listening us for about 45 minutes to an hour. We thank you. If you want to get involved with our community, you certainly can. We really would love for you to do. You can get in touch with us in a few different ways. First of all, you can find us on our Facebook page, which is You, Me, and Your Mom. I know, we thought really hard about that. And then you can also find us on our Instagram, which we've actually changed it. It's a new handle. It used to be You, Me, Your Mom 99, but we've actually changed it to You, Me, Your Mom Podcast. You can find us there on Instagram, You, Me, Your Mom Podcast. You'll find us. There's a couple other ways that you can contact us. If you want to leave us a voicemail, you certainly can. If you go to where most of podcast platforms will have a little cool button that says voicemail. If you click on that, you can leave us a voicemail. Tell us what you think. If there's a channel or trend that warms your heart that you would want us to know about it, please share with us. You can do it by voicemail, but you can also do it on those different pages that we have. And you can also leave us an email, which is youmeyourmom99@gmail.com. That's you, me, your mom 99@gmail.com, and that's spelled YOUMEYOURMOM 99@gmail.com. Thanks, Brandon. You can also find us on Twitter. We have a new Twitter account there. You can find us, You, Me, Your Mom there. It's really easy to find us there as well. I wanted to mention that before I forget. Hey, if you like what we do, please tell your family and friends that what we do. We're growing, and the best way for a podcast to grow is if you guys recommend us. And you can do that by sharing with your family and friends. That would be a huge favor to us. And then also in places like Stitcher and iTunes, you can actually leave us a review. And please leave us a review. We'd love to hear some feedback on things that we're doing well, that you would like us to continue, and things that we can improve on. Well, as always.
But I was just going to say, folks, if you're out there, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star review on Apple podcasting or whatever platform using. If Stitcher has a comparable rating system, give us 5 stars, leave a review, say, hearing Brandon's soul leave his body and descend into madness watching Highlander 2 was the highlight of my 2020 and has helped pull me out of depression. Actual story from a listener. Not actually, but that'd be cool if it was. But, give us a shout out. It helps us out. It'll help get the word out of our podcast. And, if you like us, other people might too.
Yeah. It would really big help for you guys to start leaving reviews and that sort of thing if you can, and if you're comfortable with and sharing us. Thank you, Brandon, for letting us know. So yeah, I always want to see your soul leave your body. That's always entertaining to me. Well, I've been Eric. Thank you for joining us, and we've been joined by our other 2 co-hosts, my best friend Brandon, and my mom.
That'd be me.
Until next time, just remember, it can always get worse. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.